You know that feeling when you pick something up, and it's not just an object anymore. Maybe it's an old hoodie you don't wear outside, but you can't bring yourself to throw away. Or a cracked phone you've already replaced but still sitting quietly in a drawer. Or something small and ordinary, a pen, a book, a cup, that somehow feels anchored to you in a way you can't quite explain. And if someone else handled it carelessly, even just a little, something inside you would tighten. Not anger exactly, just a quiet discomfort like something personal was being misunderstood. Most people don't notice this, or if they do, they brush it off. But there's a certain kind of person who feels it more deeply than they let on. The world doesn't always understand that. It tends to label it in simple ways: sentimental, over-attached, maybe even a little irrational. As if forming a deep connection with an object means confusing it with something it's not. But that interpretation misses something important. Because for some people, this isn't really about the object at all. It's about what the object quietly holds. There's more going on here than people realize, something subtle but deeply human that doesn't get explained in the way it deserves. The psychology of people who form deep connections with objects isn't about materialism. It often shows up in people who care less about ownership and more about meaning. What's happening is something known as emotional transference, where the brain links a physical object to an internal experience in a very real neurological way. The brain is constantly trying to organize memory, emotion, and identity into something stable. It does this by attaching feelings to tangible anchors. Memory isn't stored like files in a cabinet. It's fluid, reconstructive. Each time you remember something, your brain rebuilds it, often using cues, and objects become those cues. A specific jacket doesn't just remind you of a moment. It helps recreate the emotional state of that time. The nervous system recognizes it almost like a shortcut: safe, familiar, known. So the attachment isn't really to the object itself, but to the feeling it reliably brings back. And for some people, that reliability matters more than anything, because human experiences aren't always consistent. People change, relationships shift, moments pass, but an object stays. It doesn't reinterpret your past or respond unpredictably. It simply holds what you once felt. This pattern often begins earlier than people think. Not always through obvious experiences, but sometimes in quieter environments where emotions weren't fully expressed or connection felt inconsistent. In those spaces, the brain adapts, learning to find safety in what doesn't change. A child might hold on to a toy not because it's inherently special, but because it's always there, steady, predictable, accessible. Over time, the objects change, but the emotional logic doesn't. It becomes a quiet way of regulating the nervous system, not a conscious decision, but a natural leaning toward stability. It's important to understand that this isn't better or worse than any other way of relating to the world. Some people build connection through constant interaction and shared energy, while others build it more internally, through memory, meaning, or even objects. Neither is more valid. They're simply different ways of organizing experience. But there's a deeper layer to this. The same sensitivity that allows someone to form meaningful connections with objects also means they can feel disconnection more sharply. Losing something like this can feel disorienting, not because the object was essential, but because it carried something that hadn't yet found another place to live. And that's the quiet paradox. The ability to find depth in simple things reflects a mind that sees layers and encodes experience richly. There's strength in that, even if it comes with a certain weight. Because in the end, this isn't about holding onto things, it's about holding onto meaning. And there's nothing broken about that. It makes sense, even when it's hard to explain.